Chris.
Yeah, you've got to lay your heart on your sleeve and think about what matters to you.
You sold yourself for medals and papers.
I'm Dennis Cook and I play guitar and I sing in Jetpack.
I'm Sam and I play drums in Jetpack.
I'm Paul from Jetpack and I play guitar and sing stroke screech.
I'm Rich and I play bass in Jetpack.
Jetpack started in 1981 as an ABBA tribute band, but I couldn't grow enough facial hair to get a beard going on, and I hadn't got enough legs to be either of the girls, so in its present day form it kind of started in 2007.
Originally it was me, Sam, Paul and another friend called Tom.
So we just did covers, we didn't have our own songs or anything, or any real aspiration to be in a band. We just did it just because we could all play different instruments.
We just sort of formed the band just as a bit of fun.
And the first thing we ever did is Sam had a digital drum kit that sounded horrendous.
We did a few local gigs and stuff, and yeah, it's escalated ever since then really. And Tom left for certain reasons, then joined.
Hey, let's do the University Battle of the Bands. So we did, and that was like our first ever gig was in May 2007, where we got a guy called Carl Sturkle, who I used to be in a band with, and the first song we ever played was Lycanthrope by Plus 44, and then we proceeded to rip off numerous covers of Angels and Airwaves, Blink, Foo Fighters, and somehow we got asked back for the final the next week, but that's where the fairy tale ended.
I joined in 2000. I think I joined late 2008 or early 2009 because I was doing work experience as part of my university course, and I'd been playing acoustically for a while.
Dennis joined the band because I was such a terrible singer and people had no problem telling me that, so we were like, oh, we should probably get a singer, and I think we'd been going about a year and a half, and we did a gig in London, and like at the time our friend Tom from Cornwall was still in the band as a guitarist, and Dennis was one of Tom's best friends, so we kind of knew Dennis through Tom, and we all had exactly the same music taste, and like Dennis was doing his sort of singer-songwriter touchy-feely crap.
Played a couple of gigs with the guys, and they just messaged me one day and said, would you like to be in the band? And my response was, I've always wanted to be in a band like this ever since I started playing music. Yeah.
And he came to see us play a gig in London, and we were like, you know what, we'll let him on stage to sing this last song with us, because he was kind of there. It was this song called Jealousy, and he was there at our uni house the day we wrote it, and he actually helped us write the end of it a little bit, because we were like, don't know what to do with this, and Dennis was like, oh, you should try this. So we let him on stage to sing at the Dublin Castle in London, and he got so into it, he was like, got his microphone out and started Adam Lazaring around the place, and then it all ended in a blaze of glory when he decided to jump off the stage and absolutely smashed his head into the overhead lighting and just totally wiped himself out on the floor. And like, there's no one there, like no one was even watching us, but there's this feisty sound girl who just came over and like ripped him a new one about how much of an idiot he was, and that's when we knew that Dennis had to be in the band. So that was like 2008, 2009.
But yeah, it was great. I was really excited and still am. I really kind of honoured a little bit that they invited me to be in their band. I wasn't that good back then. I'm not amazing now, but I was awful back then. In terms of the process in which we write, it can go a number of different ways. Like Paul and I normally will write the skeleton of a song and we'll bring it in, but we've had things before where I've written like a chord structure, I'm not happy with my lyrics or melodies, so Paul writes the lyrics and the melodies to it, you know, we add to each other's stuff, but on the whole it is a collaborative process, because once the skeleton's there, we will demo it, and then it'll be, you know, Sam, look at the drums. What do you think here? Rich, what do you think of the bass? So it's genuinely a collaborative process, and it seems to come quite easy. Although it's frustrating when you can't get it right.
Yeah, like writing new music is, you can't plan for it. I've heard some bands say where the manager sort of forces them to sit down and go write a song, and I just couldn't do that.
It was really exciting recording our first EP because we went away for a week up to Stoke, and we stayed away in a cottage.
A lot more thought went into writing All I Need than In Transmission.
In fact, that was one of the first things we all worked on together. I think I've been in the band for about a year and a half, maybe. And Paul sent me this. This demo that was like it was done like completely on some kind of Casio keyboard or something. The drum, I think Paul said the drums had kind of stuck in his head. He had a rhythm and he put the music to it, and it sounded like a panpiper, an ocarina was singing the vocal line.
And there's always bits we change, like for our own instrument. If you happen to have written the drums for that one, I'd be like, oh, let's change that bit to that. I think that'd be better. But yeah, I think that was a fairly quick one. That was one you just came to us. I've written this song. Here it is. We're like, oh yeah, like it. Let's change that bit and that bit, and then that was it really. But yeah, it came together quite quickly, that one.
I remember listening to it, and I think we pretty much wrote, Paul wrote the first verse and the chorus, and I wrote the bridge and the second verse parts, and yeah, it kind of came easy, I guess. It was one of the first ones where I guess we all collaborated on a song, and then we went on to record it probably about 6 months later, or 4 months. And looking back, time moves quite quickly. But yeah, it was quite easy one. It was quite simple. I mean, the melodies were great. It was already, the song structure was there, and you know, we just tweaked it a little bit.
That's a bit how it originally was, but we do put a few more fills in. But I still think it needs to be different. Okay. I don't feel the end. I just don't know. I don't like it.
What about?
Oh god, I hate rehearsal. I hate it. I just laugh when a song goes wrong in rehearsal, and I keep a mental note of how many times someone's messed up, and as long as I've got the lowest score at the end of it, that's a good rehearsal. It's good. I try and see it on a serious note. I try and if the same mistake's happening in the same part over and over again, it's great because we can look at it, iron out any problems. But other than that, I just try and have a bit of fun at rehearsal to stop it getting monotonous. Yeah, gear-wise, I'm quite lazy at rehearsal. I don't like. We've all realised we needed to invest a bit of money into some decent equipment the last year or so. So really, what we use on stage is a lot more complicated than what we use in the rehearsal room. I personally tend to strip back a little bit. I use a different guitar usually, and I just use my amp. Where if I'm playing live, there's usually a specific guitar that I would use to get the sound that I want. Loads of effects pedals, things like that. I'm even talking about buying a tiny little orange amplifier to take to practice just because it's less to carry. I'm that lazy.
Again, back in the day, we practiced whenever we could, but there's always a reason not to for some certain weeks.
We didn't used to rehearse enough. We started at uni and we used to practice every day. We'd go through the set every day in Sam's bedroom, and then when we moved back out of uni, we sort of didn't practice as much, and it really helps keep you tight.
You just need to practice. We practice every Wednesday now, and whenever else we can, just to be as tight as possible. And I think in the last year since we started just being a bit more regimented, we've started sounding a lot better and a lot tighter live. So
I think although it's a weird concept because bands usually aren't very organised or very regimented, I think it's good to sort of know, right, at this time on this day we're in this place for business essentially. It's a good idea.
But focus is important. It's what we've learned over the past year or so. Practice is, it's like the work part. Live's fun and you've got to, you know, work at that, but in practice room you've got to be very critical of yourselves, and we're all very open, so if somebody thinks somebody's shanked something or if it's not right, you know, we tell each other and we just get on with it.
Pretty excited and just want to play.
usually wondering where Dennis is because he's always disappeared. I don't know where he goes. I don't know, but yeah, usually wondering where he is.
Normally 9 times out of 10, anybody else in the band will tell you that I'm the most nervous person. They're all kicking back and having a drink, and I'm just walking around with my iPod on, fidgeting, can't stand still, normally going, it's not going to be okay.
I don't even know how to play the first song because I can't remember it. But then as soon as you get on there, you do.
I'm usually pretty excited. I don't really get nervous, but I get really impatient. So sometimes if you're the headline band and stuff, I get so fed up with waiting.
I think they should perfect their craft, really. If they can perfect it whilst they're on tour, fair enough, and obviously they'll be getting a fan base. But I would rather make sure that they've got a decent set, got some real good songs. As I say, 3 killer songs, that'd be perfect. That'll get people talking about it. So yeah, I'd rather they concentrate on that. If they've got all that, then great. Do tours, build up a following in your particular area. Don't be worried about going down to London straight away. Just make sure that you can create a fuss within your own particular patch.
I think marketing for us is really important, but you need to get to a sort of level where you need to like market. But I think the most important thing is to write good songs. And then if you've got good songs and you progress, then I think marketing the band is really important. But for bands who are just starting, I wouldn't worry about marketing, because if you don't have a lot of product and the songs and the recordings, then there's no point marketing yourself.
The reason we started Wednesday Cover Club for us was to just put ourselves out there a bit more and cover some songs which we really like. So people who might be into that kind of band, so somebody like Taking Back Sunday, if they like them, stumble across our cover on YouTube. And it's really a promotional tool.
And this is Head On Collision by Newfound Glory.
It's quite difficult to do after a while because we are quite busy, and because we all work day jobs. It's hard to find the time sometimes to put it all together. But it was a promotional tool. You've got to really work harder than just sitting around waiting for people to come to you. You have to go out and grab them. So that's what it is. Really.
Tell you something. It's not the falling of the temperature that's making all our bones run cold. It's the breeze you made, the presence felt when you're around me. And it feels like I'm at an all-time low, slightly.
Yeah, marketing's a lot more important than I ever kind of realised. I'm sort of, without it sounding cliche, I'm all about the music. All I really tend to focus on is trying to write songs and play them as well as we can, but you almost have to think of your music as your product.
This is our cover of Yellow Card's Hang You Up.
And you're trying to sell it to the relevant people, and it sounds quite cynical, but it's an industry at the end of the day, and sure, you want to do it for a career because you love it, but you've got to realise that you have to sell what you do to people as well, and that's where marketing comes in.
I'm waiting still. which way to turn. You were a light inside a tunnel in my head. I tried to follow, still I tried to follow, still it's hard to see you, you're older now. When I find you,
Management is important, but I'd say it needs to start within the band itself. Self-management's the key. A lot of musicians, notoriously lazy, I have to say. They're often great at their creative side, but not so great at the other aspect of music, which is obviously getting people to listen, getting gigs organised and things like that. So I think they have to start from within. Maybe that eventually they do have to take on someone external to the band to have that little bit of a, I guess, be able to step back from the whole creative process and just be able to say, well, actually, you need to be doing this, you need to be getting this gig and stuff like that. So yeah, management is key, really, in the end. But different levels, and as long as the band members are willing to accept responsibility, then that's good.
Oh, please. I don't think we're doing it for real.
Self-recording, yeah, it's good for demos, period, but some can actually be decent enough to be broadcast. A lot of bands that obviously play on mine, I am quite impressed at the level of production, and then you find out that it has still only been produced in their bedroom or front room, and the amount of kit that you can get, the power of computers these days, you can get a really polished recording.
I think studio recordings are really important for bands. Good quality studio recordings are important because you want to get your music played on radios, so that's really important. If you don't have good quality, then you won't be able to play them on the radio. You won't have them to sell at gigs or for people to download for free.
Proper recording makes you sound as good as possible. And you got something to sell as well then.
You can, it's good to record demos in your bedroom, but you're never going to be able to sell them to people when they're not going to show you full potential. So I think it's really important to have good recordings.
Incredibly important. Things shifted for us as soon as we started recording. People took us a bit more seriously. There's a fine line though, because you still have to be a good band. With recordings these days, any band can sound amazing. If you go to somebody like Matt O'Grady, even if you can barely play your instruments, he will make you sound amazing. And it can be a bit of a letdown for people if they see you and you don't live up to that. But since we've started doing proper studio recordings with people, people notice us and offer us things. And it's slowly getting to the point now where every time we release new stuff, more people are being interested in us from within the industry.
When I'm choosing bands, there's nothing in particular that I'm looking for other than a decent song, really. Now it could be really well polished. Bands may have been to a studio, or it could be a kid in his bedroom just banging out a tune on his acoustic guitar. But as long as there's a decent tune, as long as there's a really good song, then really that's what I'm looking for.
2, 3, 4. Let's take a step back, assess the situation. Every single step is so cold and calculated. Every repetition, my thoughts and blood all every execution tells me apart, remake me. And this isn't the first time, sure as hell it isn't the last time. Everything just stops.
I find this funny that you like that song. I wrote that song sat on a mattress in a spare room somewhere by myself, and you're interested in it, and I think that's awesome.
I have a lifelong love affair with music. It is literally everything for me. I can't, if I've been at work all day, I've been out all day, and I haven't listened to music, I go stir crazy.
Now everything's crystal. I just want you to know that this isn't the first time, sure as that isn't the last time. All the lights slow down. The lights slow down. I can't breathe. This is all I need. The light I lead, the lies I speak, those dirty and sink into me, just so you know it won't let go of me. This is all I need.
Bands have to constantly release music these days. Get something out there, yes, but to bombard you with, say, 10 average tracks, if you can hone your craft and get 3 absolute stonkers, then I'd rather just be confronted by those 3.
All I Need was a bit of an odd one. We knew we were going to record Holding On, and we needed one more song, and so I think we did what we normally do, just like get a load of ideas down, and then All I Need seemed to be the one that stuck. And I remember Sam and I were living together in a flat. It got to the pre-chorus and Sam did the drum parts because I was struggling.
But for me, it was quite exciting because the first time I sort of heard it, that it was completely different from the finished product. So we had we changed it quite a few times and a few different bits. We really changed it, and then we sort of ended up like what it is now.
Matt O'Grady is a gentleman from Surrey who records You Me at 6 and Deaf Havana, and we prefer working with him over other producers just because he just gets where we're coming from and he's got the same influences, and he's one of those people who just tell it to you straight. Like if he thinks something's not working, he's honest about it.
Writing All I Need was a really interesting experience because it may never have happened, and by that I mean we recorded with Matt O'Grady, great producer, hell of a long waiting list, and we knew we had this block of time booked with him.
This is the first time we're going to him, and he's like the best producer we've been to. So we needed like 2. Well, we had to write our 2 best songs, we thought, just to really get our money's worth. And Dan had written a few demos, and we'd all sort of chipped in on a few ideas.
And as the weeks went by, we just couldn't find the second song. We were going through demo after demo. We were throwing away so much stuff, just going, this isn't good enough, this isn't good enough. And in the end, Dennis sort of threw out an idea, and it was never any more than, that's got potential. But then we all started chipping in a little bit, and the way our other influences and bands and stuff probably all helped us go, that bit in that song, I like the kind of vibe they're doing there, what can we do to get that same sort of feeling across? And in the end, it's a lot of good things have come from that song. It's almost been our breakthrough song at this stage of our career. So yeah, it was completely natural. Everyone was involved in it. It's everything you'd want when you're writing a song as a band, really. And
then we just sort of worked and worked and worked in the weeks building up to it, and then went to the studio and recorded it. So yeah, it's good.
Before we went to the studio, we put the Glockenspiel in. I guess the song's about. The song sounds like it's kind of a bad song, but it's not. It's quite positive. It's about a moment when you. It's a very specific moment when I saw somebody, and I'm like really bad at talking to girls in nightclubs, and I just like had to go and speak to somebody. It was. I won't explain it because it always makes me feel awkward. I wrote. What happens with a lot of our songs is that one of us will write a song, or I know sometimes it works for me, is that I'll write a song and I'll write lyrics and a melody, and then another idea will present itself from Paul, or maybe somebody else will come up with something, and then we strip parts out of old songs and put them into new songs, so demos which were just ideas kind of get grafted onto new songs, and that was I'd written it. It was I wrote it in the kitchen, in my dad's house, probably about 2 years ago. I wrote that part. Then we all sat down one day in Sam's house, in his parents' front room, which I'm sure they were eternally grateful for, and we were demoing about 5 songs just on GarageBand, and Paul started playing these chords, and it just came from there. I think we just grafted one idea onto the other, and it just worked really well. And the bridge was the most painful thing we've ever had to do. We stood in a practice room. We don't normally write in a practice room. We don't really practice songs full band until we practice them acoustically sufficiently enough for them to be, good, and we all know what we're doing. And we all just stood there trying to figure out the middle of this song for ages. We're just looking at each other, just going, "Oh, why don't you do this? Why don't you try that?" And that was painful. But it was written. It was really collaborative. It's what we always seem to do. Somebody will come in with a core idea, and then everybody just picks it apart, and we make it the best we can. And Paul always talks about, and it's completely correct, it's like when we think we've finished the song, there's always that trying to squeeze that extra 5% or 10% out of the song. Oh yeah, we're really happy with this song, but let's just squeeze it a little bit more, challenge ourselves, make it a bit better. What are the harmonies doing, the studio perks that you're going to put in that are never going to be played live, but how can you just add and layer? Yeah, that was quite an easy one to write, and again, collaboration.
That's me, master of riffage. I guess that's my role in Jetpack these days. It's nice. Dennis is such a good singer that he gets to focus on that, and that frees me up a little bit to try and write some bits on guitars. Because I love riffage. Again, Blink, Tom DeLonge, he was the king at writing riffs, and I was into a lot of guitar bands when I was really young. So it doesn't come naturally to me because I'm not a theoretically trained musician. I taught myself, so I don't know my scales. I don't know anything. I just know what sounds right and what doesn't. So usually it involves me sitting in a room for hours on end, annoying anyone with an earshot, just trying to find a pattern that gets stuck in my head that I want to listen to over and over again. That's how it comes about, really.
It's just all the drum parts are just sort of ideas of what I think will make the song better, rather than trying to have big moments where I think, oh, this will be good, this will make me look good, or whatever. I don't know. I don't think like that. But yeah, we're writing that song. We're all sat around in my living room at my parents' house. We just thought, let's write a song, which we never do normally. And it just sort of came together bit by bit, and we're like, oh, let's try this bit here, let's try that bit there, and then we all just had ideas, which normally, like I said before, Dan will have a demo and we'll all add to it, or Paul will have an idea. But that one we all just sat around and it just sort of happened. And then once we start practicing it, sort of new ideas come to you, and you think, well, what I was doing there sounds good, but I'll try this, and then you just sort of try things out in the practice room until I'm happy with it all, really. And then I still change stuff. Like, I've recorded songs 2 years ago and we play them now, and I change bits just because I think it'll be better. So I don't think anyone notices or minds, but maybe they do. They haven't said anything. But yeah, that's how it works normally.
Next for Jetpack is I want to say it's make or break. It's not, but it's things feel like they're starting to go right.
What's next for Jetpack? It's going to be a busy year, as all bands say. We've actually we're negotiating an agreement with a record label at the moment.
Maybe we're starting to get a bit of attention from the right people, and it feels as though we've spent 5 years kind of cutting our teeth and working hard and trying to make a name for ourselves, and we've almost taken it as far as we can by ourselves.
Now everything's crystal. I just want you to know.
We've got a new video coming out. And then I suppose we're going to start looking at playing some festivals in the summer.
so many people that haven't heard us yet. I want to get out there and just play to as many people as we can, and then if they like us, good. If they don't, at least they heard us, you know.
Yes, it's going to be very busy but exciting because it's going to be really our big push for this CD and all our music. Right? It's going to be a good one. Factory Studios. Now then.
Don't know.
Right.
You're ruining it.
What did it do? Do you want me to look at the camera at any point?
No.
Let's
Attitude. Fashion.
fucking Arctic monkeys. How's my hair look? Okay.
Music to you in 3 words.
He would drop a collection. You sound like shit.
Yeah.
You sound like you look, and you look like shit.
Look at that.
Who is, you saying?
Who is? Who is?
Paul. Or me. That's the camera. Oh.
Okay, look at Can't sing. Not as in you can't sing, obviously not.
Sorry, nice. Because they're all pussies.